Can type 2 diabetes actually be reversed permanently? Or is that just another internet promise? Because we've all been told it's chronic, progressive, and for life. But what I'm about to explain is going to challenge that. And I don't say that lightly. Today, I'm going to show you how to reverse type 2 diabetes permanently without extreme dieting, complicated supplements, or adding more medication. Hi, I'm Jared. I'm an ICU nurse and health coach. And in 2018, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I was told dependence on medication was my only hope, but I went searching for answers instead, and I reversed my type 2 diabetes. In this video, we're going to cover the one thing that drives type 2 diabetes for most people, what you have to stop doing starting today, and how you can take steps to avoid years of more and more medications and long-term complications. And I'm going to show you this through real physiology and real stories. But before we start, I want to be clear. This is not medical advice. My goal is for you to educate yourself so that you can have an informed conversation with your provider before you make any changes. So let's start with the root of diabetes. If type 2 diabetes can be reversed, what's actually causing it? When I was first diagnosed, I thought something inside me had failed. Genetics, stress, bad behavior, bad luck. But despite popular belief, here's what's really happening in most people. Type 2 diabetes is not a medication deficiency. It's insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is usually the result of chronic glucose overload. Diabetics are carbohydrate intolerant. Let me explain. Every time you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas releases insulin, and insulin's job is to push glucose into the cells where it can be used for energy. That's normal. The problem is when this happens all day, every day, for years. Eventually, insulin can't do its job as well, so the body produces more and more of it to try to keep up. And eventually, the system starts to burn out. One of my clients, Sharon, came to us with scary labs. Her kidneys took a hit. She'd managed her diabetes for years with medications, but now her A1C was climbing. Her fasting glucose was high, and her doctor was preparing to increase her medications again. She was eating like they told her to, everything in moderation. Whole wheat toast in the morning, a sandwich at lunch, small servings of brown rice or whole wheat pasta at dinner, the super healthy granola bars, the yogurt. She made sure to get in her 2 to 4 servings of fruit each day. Normal food. But for her, it was constant glucose overload. Her liver was storing that excess glucose as fat. That fat was accumulating inside the liver cells, which in turn interfered with insulin signaling. So over time, her body needed more insulin to do the same job. And that's insulin resistance. When that happens, the body dumps out more insulin, more fat is stored, and more resistance is met. And the cycle goes on, but not for Sharon. When we lowered her carbohydrate load, something changed. Her fasting glucose dropped. Her insulin dropped. 30 days later, her labs improved enough that her doctor removed a medication costing her over $600 a month. And that's after insurance. Not because we added some magic supplement or another medication, but because we simply removed the thing her body was fighting against. And that's the first shift, is to lower the chronic glucose exposure. That's the beginning of reversal. Before we go on, if you want the exact framework we used with Sharon and that I used in my own life, I put together a free guide called The 6 Steps to Reverse Diabetes Naturally. I put it below in the description. Now, here's what keeps a lot of people stuck. It's not just what you eat, it's how you eat. So let me ask you a question. How many times a day is your insulin elevated? Do you have breakfast? What about a mid-morning snack? Lunch? An afternoon snack? What about dinner? Don't forget dessert. Do you have some drinks in between? Every time you take in calories, insulin rises. Even small amounts of food do this. Stephen was told, "You'll always be a diabetic." And at first, he tried to just eat healthier, but he was still eating 6 times a day. His insulin never had a chance to fall, and that's what constant grazing does. Insulin stays elevated. Fat stays locked inside the cell, and the resistance gets worse. When Stephen compressed his eating window, when he stopped snacking, when insulin had time to drop between meals, his fasting numbers began to improve steadily, because sensitivity improves when insulin is allowed to fall, and the body gets a chance to rest and reset. Now here's the physiology. Chronically elevated insulin downregulates insulin receptors. Lower insulin exposure allows receptors to resensitize. That's how metabolic repair happens. And that's the second shift to reverse this terrible disease, is to simply create metabolic space. Eat real meals. Stop grazing. Allow time between meals. And simply put some manageable boundaries around what time you eat. Start with something simple like close the kitchen at 7 p.m. and don't open it again until the next morning. When Stephen did this, along with a few other simple steps, he had the opportunity to work with his provider and come off all medications. His body wasn't broken. It was overstimulated. Once he removed the constant stimulation, his system recalibrated. Now let's address the hardest question. If you do this, can it really last, or is this just temporary? Well, Shay committed. Nothing extreme, nothing obsessive, consistent. She lowered carbohydrate load, focused on protein, stopped constant snacking, moved her body, and improved her sleep. 2 years later, she's still pill-free. Here's the key. Reversal is conditional. If the cause returns, the condition can return. But that doesn't mean it's fake. It means it's metabolic. If someone with high blood pressure loses weight and lowers sodium and stress, blood pressure improves. If they go back to old habits, it rises again. That doesn't mean hypertension isn't manageable. It means lifestyle matters. So here's what permanence actually means. Sustained metabolic health, lower liver fat, improved insulin sensitivity, healthy muscle mass, a stable eating rhythm. And when glucose and insulin stay in normal ranges, complication risks drop dramatically. Neuropathy risk decreases. Kidney stress decreases. Cardiovascular risk decreases. This isn't anti-medication. Some people need medication initially. A small number may need them for life. But that isn't where the conversation should begin, much less end. And you can lower your blood sugar very quickly. That's why it's important not to do anything without consulting your doctor, especially if you're on medications. Medicines, including insulin, manage symptoms. They don't fix insulin resistance. When you address the root cause, you change everything. So let me explain one more time why this works biologically. In type 2 diabetes, the liver becomes fatty. Fat in the liver increases glucose production, even when you're not eating. That's why so many people see fasting glucose rise. When carbohydrate intake drops, liver fat decreases. When insulin falls, fat burning increases. When muscle is stimulated through resistance training, glucose disposal improves. Body becomes metabolically flexible again. This isn't magic. It's how the body was designed. Your body was built to handle periods of fuel and periods without fuel. Constant feeding is a modern marvel. Insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and the explosion of diabetes are all modern problems. Our bodies have the tools to heal. They just need a little space. So here's the framework for diabetes reversal one more time in simple terms. Lower carbohydrate intake. Stop grazing. Focus on protein and whole foods. Build muscle. Improve sleep and stress. And move your body. That's the pathway. It's not complicated, but it is powerful. The problem with simple things like this is they're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. Type 2 diabetes is not random. It's prolonged metabolic stress. And prolonged metabolic stress can be reversed if you remove what's causing it. Now, if this made sense, the next question is, what do I do first? I'll tell you, but first could I ask you one favor? Please like, subscribe, and share this if it helped you at all. Doing that helps this message reach the people who need it the most. Now, for next steps, watch this next video. The new food pyramid is not for diabetics. It's linked in the description. I'll see you there.